Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, and you're all welcome to the day 9 of our African Digital Summit. If you can get me, kindly indicate in the chat. Kindly type yes in the chat. If you can get me, kindly type yes in the chat. If you can get me, kindly type yes in the chat. Okay, perfect. So I just want to confirm if our speakers are ready for us today. Just want to check. Once again, good evening to everyone, and you're welcome to the day 9 of our African Digital Conference or African Digital Summit 2025, where innovation meets impact across the continent. So I'm Tamon Dieudonne, and as far as today's session is concerned, we're going to have very powerful conversations, and I'm honored to guide you through a lineup that sits at the heart of Africa's next frontier. So we are going to be focusing on the creative economy, tourism, and cultural identity in a digital age. So we're going to have a couple of speakers who will be coming up. I'm just going to list these speakers. So when they come up, you're going to know more about them. So the first speaker we are going to have, or one of the speakers we're going to have today is Madame Clara Chinwe, who is a trailblazer in creative entrepreneurship, branding, and digital storytelling. As the founder of Beauty Africa and Brand World TV, Clara has spent over 2 decades at the forefront of tourism and travel digital transformation, redefining how African narratives are told, monetized, and globalized. Then, of course, we have Mr. Kimani Munene, who is an award-winning cultural strategist and digital economy advocate. And he will unpack how technology is unlocking growth in Africa's creative industry, from fashion to content to local brands. Then, of course, we have Mr. Tosin, who is a branding expert and the founder of Digital Identity Africa. And of course, he brings perspectives on how digital platforms can preserve and amplify Africa's identity. Then, of course, we have Mr. Lyonga, who is an author, an AI inclusion advocate, and will help us explore the intersection of cultural diversity and artificial intelligence. Then again, we have Madame Priscilla, who is an award-winning land educationist, thought leader, and a real estate professional from Ghana, whose passion for excellence and impact in the land and property space continues to reshape national conversations. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be calling each and every one of these speakers. They are going to come up and they are going to share a little about the topics which I have just mentioned. And of course, they are going to be having at least 10 to 15 minutes to give us a summary. Then from there, we are going to move on to the Q&A session. Perfect. So the first speaker I'm going to be calling up today is let's see. So today we are going to begin with Mr. Lyonga Maffany. Okay, so Mr. Lyonga Maffany is a visionary entrepreneur, a brand strategist, youth empowerment advocate from Cameroon. As the founder of maFfy, Leo works with both local and international organizations to develop bold, impactful brands and design forward-thinking digital strategies that drive real change. He's also the driving force behind the Creative Corner Foundation, an initiative empowering women and young people through digital literacy and entrepreneurship training. His work is shaping the next generation of African creative and digital leaders. The youngest leadership has been felt across major innovation platforms, including Simif and the Simfest Hackathon, where he champions creativity, cultural expression, and inclusive tech-driven development. He is a sought-after speaker on branding, innovation, and business resilience with past features on the Shameless podcast and youth empowerment panel from Kumba to wider Cameroon. Today, he brings a powerful perspective to our conversation on cultural diversity and artificial intelligence, exploring how Africa's identity can thrive in a digital first world. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome to the spotlight Mr. Lyonga Maffany. Mr. Lyonga, you have the floor. Thank you.
Good evening to everyone. Hope you're getting me very clearly. Sorry, we have a very cold weather here in Cameroon today. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. And I hope everyone is getting me very clearly. because this is like the highest my voice could get.
Yes, we can get you. Can get you clearly.
All right. So like the moderator said, my name is Lyonga Maffany, and I'm from Cameroon. And yes, I championed last year one of the best initiatives, which was the hackathon, the Simfest hackathon, which was basically building a musical platform or a musical innovation that was going to help artists within the West African ecosystem. And this is actually the ideology, so that's what I'm wearing tonight. So we had over 87 people together in a 10-man team challenge, and it was really good, and we had a good time. Tonight, I really want to dive much into the cultural diversity and the place of AI. Why that? Because yesterday we were having the 3i annual summit in Accra, and I couldn't make it. And I couldn't make it for basically one reason. And that's why I loved the topic of today, which was creative economy, tourism, and identity. So let's say something. I couldn't make it. Why? Because I could not find a direct flight that was going to take me there and bring me back at the appropriate time I needed back to my nation, because I have a meeting scheduled for today and tomorrow. So I was willing to cancel today to meet up with tomorrow, but just to be out to be in Accra, but I couldn't get it. And what is the 3i all about? The 3i, it's an initiative that is championed by the Bank of Ghana, where last year we brought over 7,000 participants around the world to discuss amazing policies that we're going to put into consideration with people from the trade unions, like Mr. Wambikele, the president himself was there, the president, the governor of the Central Bank of Ghana, the Bank of Ghana, sorry, the governor of the Bank of Kigali. We had several governors there to talk about financial inclusion, digital innovations, and the place of AI as the economies are growing faster. And I couldn't make it. And I just texted them. I said, there was no flight. And they said, oh, please try to be there next year. But that was where it was more tricky. Because in Africa, where we have similar cultures, the Nigerians have the tribe called the Igbos, who can also trace some of their roots to people in Cameroon who are called the Bayangians. You have the Ghanaians who use fabrics as cultural wares, which is something which is very common within the ecosystem in Africa with most cultural groups. But if you want to move around Africa with all these food similarities, cultural similarities, political landscape, even the landscape, sometimes you go to some places and it's the same. It's the same feeling, the warmth of the people is the same, but we find it so difficult to move around Africa. So difficult. An average flight to Accra will cost you $1,600, $1,200 from Cameroon, maybe let's say from Douala, or maybe from Simalen. An average flight from Lagos to Accra costs you, or maybe to Kigali costs you. Sometimes some of these flights within Africa, which is an ecosystem that is to be together and work to foster our personal growth and our economies, it's so difficult that you wonder whether you're leaving the continent completely to get to another place, and which is something which it makes tourism, it makes creatives find it so difficult, because where is exactly Abidjan for a creative to leave maybe Ghana or maybe Mombasa, or let's just say somewhere like Morocco to get to where is the next country? It's so close that people have done tours in Africa within using roads, and we find it so difficult moving within the air space. And that's because the governments have not taken into consideration, beautiful governments we have here in Africa, they have their shortcomings, but we must acknowledge that people can only disperse the amount of knowledge that they have within themselves. And when it's not within their knowledge sphere, it's something, what you don't know is bigger than you. That's what is said in my community. So I say this now, and I say, where is the place of AI? Where is the place of all these innovations that are coming. Now we have movies that are shot fully with AI. Now we have the chatbots that are raising, from Gemini that is done by Google to ChatGPT, that is a universal bot that maybe the Apples and everyone is using, to DeepSeek, to every AI solution that is being popped up makes life more easier for the creatives and more easy for us to be able to access information within the African ecosystem, yet very challenging to operate. I remember a friend of mine got to me and said they find it very difficult cutting across French African countries to getting them more involved in activities that are happening that could benefit their ecosystem. And I can understand, because it's not a language barrier thing. It's more of a cultural barrier where the Englishman or the English people feel that, we could communicate this. This is an opportunity. Let me send it to him. Let me send it to this person. Let me send it to the next brother. Let him be able to maybe check it out. Let him be able to, let's send it to Mr. Tamon. Let him be able to go through it. Let him authenticate it. Let him be part of it. But within the French system, on this souvent ça sort comme ça sort. So as you see it, that's how you take it. So you can hear Ghana, Kenya doing an amazing, like the Law Tech Festival is an amazing thing. Few African French countries. The 3i was a really amazing this year. Few French African countries. And how then do we make this tech that is made available for us within? I remember listening to it, a particular mentor, and he said this. He said, Einstein didn't have what we have, which is a smartphone. Einstein didn't. And a smartphone basically increases the brain power of a human being over 1,000% if you can accurately use it. So a creative who is maybe, let's say, a graphic designer in Cameroon should be able to work across borders with all the softwares and all the innovations that have been made available for people to work, yet very challenging. There is Slack, there is Google Meet, there is Zoom. I think Skype just recently died or was taken out of the market. But you have all of these and more with social media platforms where you could communicate with people on a daily basis, from WhatsApp to Facebook to Instagram to TikTok. And it has not yet sunk in the cultural mind of an average African that, hey, wake up, tech is coming, wake up, AI is coming, wake up. There are new innovations now that you don't need too much of your brain power, but your phone could process that for you. Why will you be multiplying huge amounts of something when you have a calculator on your phone, or maybe a calculator in front of you? That's the beauty of tech. The beauty of tech is fusing tech with our cultures. The beauty of tech is fusing tech in our tourism industry. I just recently spoke to someone, and he was talking about an amazing AI conference that you could check it out. It will be happening in August in Zanzibar. And Zanzibar is aiming at just bringing together a tech hub to add to their tourism industry, to give them a spark to their ecosystem. Beautiful innovation and a beautiful coming together by governance. That is why innovation is not coming to challenge the basic work of the way work process. No, innovation is coming to make, or innovation is here to make life much more easier for the average man. So if you have 14 meetings in a month, your Google Calendar could schedule all of those meetings for you as a personal assistant, and then give you prior notifications before your time. And on the strength of that, I think we should get to connect. I think there's a shyness in Africa where we don't want to connect with people. We have 5,000 friends on Facebook and we don't know 10. We don't know for 1,000. We don't have a clue of what they do, how they could be beneficiary to us, how we could be beneficiary to them, how we could become partners, how we could foster growth, how we could foster change. And it's giving a lot of challenges and then giving a setback to an ecosystem that tech has made available for us to grow. So I didn't want to speak much because I'll be more of a question and answer guy, because personally, I think we have diverse challenges per culture, different ecosystems, different challenges. A Cameroonian will tell you, oh, we have this challenge of governance, we have this challenge of financing. A Ghanaian will tell you, no, the finances are, they are made available by the banks, but we have these policies that are hindering us. Same thing with somebody in Kigali, in Rwanda, they'll be saying something else. Kenya will be talking something else. South Africa will be talking something else. And we get to understand that, yes, we do have different diverse challenges, but one common denominating factor that makes life much easier for all of us is the availability of tech, availability of AI, for everyone to consume and use appropriately to make their lives easier. So 10 years ago, you want to write policy laws, you will need to really have to read, you really have to think, and then you definitely have to work to get it. Now, you could use a chatbot and get some policy, and then you polish it up with prior, maybe your background knowledge and everything, and it gets more technical for you today. So I just want us to leave my session with one thing in your mind. Your number of contacts on your mobile phone, your number of friends on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Some people hit 14,000, 25,000 followers on LinkedIn. How have you connected? Those platforms were only made for us to share our cultural values, our cultural diversities, share opinions, be great to one another. You know, I told one of my friends, I said, I think tech has taken away humanity's affection for one another. So now we have steez. Because I have 5,000 followers and you have 2 followers, I don't want to ask you, what do you do, sir? How is life? No, I need to ask the person I think is beneficiary to me, or somebody who is more elevated than I am. And that's where there's a problem, because we cannot keep on having, I can imagine Einstein looking at us from wherever he is, saying, my God, these guys are having everything I didn't have. Mathematical equations can be solved easier with a basic calculator, talk less of the powerful AI bots that have come up. And we still find it challenging to write programs, softwares. Organizations still operate without basic branding equipment, like, let me just say, necessities, websites, videos. It's so funny how life has become easier, yet very complex for us to understand. And so leave my session very briefly, because I will prefer more of questions. Leave my session with one thing. Are all the friends you're having on social media, are they necessary? Are all the people you've connected with, have you been a blessing to them, or have they been a blessing to you? Are all the contacts on your WhatsApp and are all the applications on your mobile devices used to their full functionality? That is the only thing that changes every human being's mind, life, or even perspective of how they see things. So thank you very much, the moderator. I would open it up for you to continue, but if anyone has any brief question, I'm open to answer, and let's proceed, because yes, I've been part of many programs, the Same First, the CAMIF, the 3I. I'm an ambassador for the next 5 years. I'll be in Zanzibar speaking at the AI conference. There's an AI conference, a tech conference happening this month at Dar es Salaam. I will be there. But the question is, in all of these, I still get to wonder. I still don't know the Yoruba people, and I cannot enjoy their culture from my comfort of my home with all the technology available. Yes, we now have apps that can generate you cheaper flights and all the like, but yet it's difficult to find cultural values. It's difficult to share. It's difficult to authenticate everything we want to work with. So leave this session with just that in mind, and I'll thank you guys. Maybe I'll come back later based on the moderator. Thank you guys very much. Mr. Tamon.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Lyonga. So before we entertain questions, from the audience, I just have some few questions to ask you. Based on the fact that you've worked with CAMIF, you've worked with Simfest. So how do creative festivals shape digital innovation?
Beautiful. Beautiful. So, what is the Simfest? This is what I'm wearing, the Simfest, the Cameroon International Music Festival, where we bring together the best of the musicians, the artists, spoken word, both in the gospel and in the other secular. We bring everybody together. It's a festival, and it's a 1 week event. But this is how we started. We started by bringing together 80 creatives from around the nation who form communities, and then they have a challenging hackathon. Now, the hackathon is a 48 hours solution providing innovation that can shape the narrative of the music industry in Cameroon. So these guys create software or digital solutions to help the artists find life more easier. And then the winner leaves with some numbers and all the like. Now, that is how we begin to shape the music. Before we go now to the concerts and the parties, we first start with the innovation that's going to shape the minds of every artist. And the artist now knows that, hey, I might be coming to perform to a 20,000 audience, but they know that there's an innovation that we are sending into the market from the creative industry that shapes the narrative of the music industry in the nearest future. So now we have online voting platforms coming up in Cameroon like never before because of that. And we also have multiple things coming up. And out of Cameroon, we have now the Lawyers Hub, where we have been, the Lawyers Hub that's in Nairobi. I've been part of them, headed by an amazing leader. She's called Linda Bonyo. Linda, since 2020, since I met her, we've been shaping the creative industry by writing good digital laws. You know, one thing which people don't understand is that technology is faster than the laws. So you can make a law that no one dances using an AI bot. But that law can only come when people have abused and created a norm from the usage of AI bots to dance. And so that's why innovation is always very faster than policies. So the Lawyers Hub and we have been part of that, writing a lot of laws to try to govern the African Union to getting this done. And that's how we've been shaping the creative industry from Kenya. The same thing we are doing in Ghana with the 3i. The Bank of Ghana is doing an amazing job. I am telling you, an amazing job. They brought together 7,000 creatives around the world to just sit down and talk about how digital policies could be made easier, how money could transfer, because we don't know that money in Africa moves complicatedly. I cannot just wake up now and send my money to somebody in Nigeria. You need this to this. There's so much complications within the African ecosystem, which is getting very complicated. Like I said, I found it even difficult to find a direct flight to just get to Accra. It had a 28-hour overlay in Kenya, which would have made me miss the meeting. So it was of no need going. So we find out all of these difficulties, and this is why we are trying to shape Africa to getting it different from the tourism and movements, aviation, to tech, to policies, to the creative industry. We are trying with multiple organizations that I can list them and their CEOs and their bosses, doing an amazing job to shape in Africa, which gives me one thing in my mind. Africa is going to get better because with better laws, then better implementations, then we have better results. So I hope that answers your question on how we'll be shaping it from Cameroon to different countries.
Yes, thank you very much for that. And we will get back to you. I think a lot of participants will equally have questions to ask. So let's move to the next speaker by name Mr. Tosin. So Mr. Tosin is a media entrepreneur and digital strategist from Nigeria. He is the visionary behind the Hype Man Africa, a media company that helped over 50 organizations and influencers and influential individuals shape their stories and build authentic brands through powerful digital tools. So Tosin's impact goes beyond business. He has served as a deputy youth ambassador and new media aide to Lagos State Commissioner for Youth and Social Development, where he led initiatives that connected young people with digital opportunities and leadership platforms. His contributions to media and youth development have earned him accolades, including nominations from the SME 100 Africa's 25 Under 25 Awards and the Foyer's Under 30 Mediapreneur of the Year. A TEDx speaker and BBC featured voice, Tosin brings a deep passion for using digital storytelling to influence public discourse, build cultural pride, and drive innovation. Today, he joined us to explore how digital platforms can help shape, protect, and project African identity in a fast paced global landscape. Please join me as we welcome Mr. Tosin to the spotlight. Over to you, Mr. Tosin.
Yes, thank you so much. Can everyone hear me? To be sure. Can everyone hear me? I just need to be sure.
Yes, we can, but we get some echoes in your background.
Okay, okay, let me see. Because I'm using Bluetooth. Okay. Is it better now?
Yes, it's okay now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the introduction. I mean, at some point I had to pause that. Am I the one being introduced? Anyway, no problem. It's been an awesome session so far. I mean, I've heard from the first speaker a lot of exciting stuff about Africa. I mean, we are in a beautiful continent, whether you choose to accept it or not. And the most interesting part, one of the most interesting part about tonight's conversation is the fact that it is time for Africa. I'll recap that. It is time for Africa. Whether we choose to accept it or not, Africa has gone beyond just a continent. It is a vibe. It is a vibration, right? It is an energy, and it is taking over globally, whether we choose to accept it or not. This is that time where you travel to some parts of UK, you travel to some parts of the US, you travel to some parts of Canada, and you see people there want to act like Africans. You see them want to dress like Africans. You see them want to listen to Afrobeat. So whether we choose to accept it or not, Africa is taking and leading the narrative, particularly when it comes to culture. Now, none of us could have imagined that Afrobeat would have, become this big as it is now. This is because of the African narrative is already shaping, the global perspective. And of course, it might not be moving as fast as, you know, we expect it to be, but the truth is, it is what it is, right? Now, looking at the context of the topic, digital platforms and African identity, I think it all boils down to one thing, and which has been the concept of what our initial speaker have been talking about. Um, One of the major challenge is we are very, very diverse. We are, of different culture. When you talk about a Nigerian, you're talking about a particular kind of culture. When you talk about Ghana, when you talk about Cameroon, Senegal, and many other countries like that here in Africa, there's diversity. Even in Nigeria, I will tell you that for sure that the level of diversity just within Nigeria as a country, cultural diversity in Nigeria as a country, it will blow your mind. A lot of people are very, very familiar with the Yoruba tribe, but there's also the tribe called the Igbo, and there's also a tribe called the Hausa. There's also a tribe called the Fulanis. There's a tribe called Ijo. There's also the Yoruba. There's also the Soko. If I keep on mentioning different tribes, and these different tribes have their respective language, their culture, unique culture, their style of their the kind of food, their style of communication, style of celebration, even down to their ethnic religion. All right. So one of the challenges we have as a continent is because of our diversity, right? And because of that diversity, sometimes it becomes very, very difficult to be able to tell our stories. And this is one of the challenges we are facing today. But the beautiful thing is, because I know there'll still be room for more questions, and we're going to outline, have some conversation around it. But the beautiful thing is, whether we choose to accept it or not, this is the time where we need to be coming out as much as we can. The platform is open, right? But we need more African narratives to be coming out as much as. That's the reason why I love this topic. When I decided to start my company in 2018, right? One of the things we decided is going to be our watchword is telling unique stories, telling African unique stories. That's why I love the topic. The topic resonates with what I do here in Africa because whatever we do for brands, whatever we do for individuals, at what we do in my company, we try to look into how we can find a way to talk about the African story through the person's business, through the individual brand, and through the whole entirety of what they are doing. Because whether we choose to accept it or not, it's all part of what we are doing. I don't care the sector you find yourself. I don't care the industry you are deploying your work, the nature of your work. But one way or the other, your unique story is the fact that you are African. You are not doing it the way a white man, in quotes, would do it. You're not doing it the way an American would do it. You're not doing it the way, a Canadian man would do it. You're doing it in an African way. And one of the beautiful things is even our culture is integrated in our business. All right? You will talk to a Nigerian man. A Nigerian man, when you want to do business with a Nigerian man, a Nigerian man will tell you, according to my culture, according to my tradition, I can't do X, Y, Z. And this is the reason why we need to be coming out to tell our stories, to position ourselves as African. We don't want a situation whereby you are on a call with a Nigerian and the person is sounding like an American. No. All right. And that's one of the challenges we are facing today because of inferiority complex. You see a Nigerian that has been here for almost all his life, then he just did maybe 2-3 days travel to the United States. How many days? You spend 3 days in the United States and you come back to Nigeria and you are speaking American English. Where is that coming from? Where is that coming from? Right? So these are part of the challenges. So we need us as business owners, as thought leaders in Africa that are shaping the narrative. We need to start coming out, sounding like our real self. And it's a beautiful thing to see the way we now have thought leaders that are coming out as activists, pushing their narrative. But the beautiful thing in the whole idea is we need to be the version of ourselves. We need to be African and we need one voice. And let me end with this. I love what the previous speaker mentioned, the fact that there's a lot of issues, between African countries. There's a lot of systematic challenges that we are facing. Now imagine that of the transactions. How difficult is it to do a transaction from one country here in Africa to another? These are part of the systems and policies that need to be fixed to make Africa one. We need to be as one as possible. And when we unite, when we come in one voice and we express ourselves to the fullest to the rest of the world, then with time we'll be able to shape the narrative on a longer scale. I think I'll open room for more questions so we can take the conversation to the next level. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tosin, for that insight. So I'm just going to take a couple of questions from the audience. Please, if you have a question, kindly post your question in the chat or just indicate with the hand show so you can ask your question. Two options. So kindly indicate, and I'm going to just raise your hand. I'm going to bring you up. And while we are doing so, please, the speaker should share their LinkedIn profiles or their handles in the chat so that the participants can connect with you. Thank you. Please raise up your hand and I'm going to bring you up. Anybody? Okay, so I have a couple of questions for both speakers. So I'm going to direct the first question to Mr. Tosin. So Mr. Tosin, how can young media entrepreneurs break through the noise in a saturated digital space? How can they actually, the digital space is really saturated. I think it's really becoming saturated. So how can young medias, those who are still struggling to get into this industry, how can they break through the noise in a saturated digital space?
Yes, thank you so much for that question. The first thing for me is it's very simple. But as simple as it may sound, it's also very, very complex. So one of the ways to do it, particularly how
I think you are still getting the echo. We cannot get you clearly. The echo is really,
okay.
yes, we are getting a lot of echo here. So it's okay. Now it's fine.
Is it better now?
Yes,
Okay.
better.
So like I was responding to your question, I said it's the response to that is very simple, but it's more complex than it sounds. Because particularly for me, one of the ways I was able to break through my space here in Nigeria, and also positioning myself for bigger reach beyond Nigeria and in Africa, is the fact that I am myself, being you. There's always that one thing. In fact, I think one of the challenges I even sense the point is there's already a crowd. There's a crowd noise. There's a crowded. It's a crowded. It's a saturated space. Everybody's talking. Everybody's talking. But even as everybody's talking, nobody can sound like you, right? Nobody
That's
can
true.
sound like you. That's the reason why we don't have. No matter how. If I look, for example, um, um, even if we both look alike, the moment we start to speak, we can't absolutely sound alike. So where there's challenge is we have people coming into the market trying to sound like another person. And that's where there's problem, all right? Be you. As funny as that may sound, if your brand representation has a touch of humor by natural default, if you're in a room and you're having conversations with people and they are talking about social media, and your own angle of social media is coming from a humor perspective, speak in that form. If your own angle of social media is coming from the business development angle, speak from that angle. If your own angle of social media is coming from cultural perspective, speak from that angle. If your own understanding of social media is coming from a policy point of view, speak from that angle. And when we do this, naturally, what that does is it shifts you automatically from the crowd of other people that are in your niche. So what we have today is because of we have a lot of people trying to copy social person, and they've said that this is the main area now, this is the niche area now, this is the area where you can make a lot of money and all of that. You now see everybody jump to that niche, and it becomes a struggle for you to find your own space. But as simple as that may sound, if only we can identify that thing that makes us unique and create a brand representation for that, it will be entirely a tussle or a struggle for her to break the limelight and stand out among the crowd. I think to some extent that you have been able to answer your question.
Yes, thank you very much. All right, so my next question goes to Mr. Leon. I believe in Africa, I think you've traveled a lot, and I'm sure you must have noticed that it's very difficult for the government, difficult for probably private organizations to really support youth-led digital entrepreneurship. So my question is, how can the government or private organizations better support youth-led digital entrepreneurship? How can the government come in as far as digital entrepreneurship is concerned, or as far as supporting youth that are striving to get into the digital space?
All right, thank you very much. I would say I'll answer you like this. We don't have, most African countries that I have been to, they don't have a government struggling to sponsor initiative issue. This is where the issue is. We've had Africans who have an escapee mindset, who have been more like bigger brothers to us, and they started up so well. Brilliant light, came up with initiatives, went up to the appropriate authorities. They sponsored them for the first edition. They sponsored them for the second edition. By the third edition, they had privileges that come with organizing those kind of events. And then They go to maybe the US and never come back. They go, I think Nigerians call it Jackpa. Yes. It was a system set by them. Most young people are too zealous. You would see them having great initiatives, but it has a hidden initiative. So the initiative is pushing, like I have a project which we go into villages, and we're trying to teach kids the advantages they have in the computer era. So it's called Inspire Creativity. So we go with our technological gadgets and we teach these kids and all the like. A friend of mine reached out and said, wouldn't I love to be on BBC? That he would call, it's a white, and he lives in the UK. So he said he wanted to call a contact. I said, no. He said, why? I said, that attention will be too much for me. I'm a young man who is growing. I don't want my head to swell. If you put me on the BBC now, my head will swell. You see, as we're introducing a lot of people, like you have introducing me and the previous and the second speaker, those accolades tend to make somebody lose focus. And most youths tend now, when they have lost their focus, then they want to think of jackpotting. And when they run, they have breached the boundaries of trust between governance and private organizations that have sponsored initiatives before. That's one side of the issue. The second side is our initiatives are not well structured. So you're trying to do a tech conference and you're trying to bring together the A-list people, but you have not done the proper branding. You've not made the... You don't need to sponsor initiatives from your pocket. You just need the appropriate people. And they can only come in when they see the impact. So why would the government come and sponsor an initiative that does not have, it's not impact oriented? So they always ask. And then most of the times we don't try it. I have someone I know in my country. He is the one who started the hackathon ideology. He walked around the entire nation. He sold this application, made so much money in dollars, used that money and invested it in giving quality education tech challenges around the nation. Now he has over UNDP sponsoring, MTNs and every big conglomerate in the nation and a local international organization reaching out to him to sponsor. But this is because this guy has invested and he doesn't have an SKP mindset. So even if they give him a US visa to go and maybe learn what it's like to do something in the US, this guy will likely go and come back. So there is that lack of trust. That's the first part, because we don't know how sustainable the initiative we are talking about is going to last. So if we put in 200 million this year, what about next year? Would you even use the money to do the initiative? That's where there's a lot of problems, because we lack structures. And, you know, our generation who is younger, we really think we know it all. While the older generation, they stand on the strength of the African parable that says, what an old man sees while sitting down, a young man cannot see while climbing on the highest. So they know a lot. And you know, half truth is not full truth. So when you're going to meet people and you're telling them initiatives, they have seen your type before. They know your character. You have the same characteristics of somebody they saw maybe in 1999. And they are looking at you with the same eyes, with the lessons they learned from the previous person. And so we just have to build ourselves. We just have to find a way to get... Would government sponsor initiatives? Yes. But we have to build trust. Solid trust that cannot be shaken. Our governments, I told one of my friends, most banks in some French African countries do not know their social corporate responsibility back to the community. So they don't really... And why would they release so much money to you? You look, the way you'll be looking like somebody who wants to go and buy a Benz. You understand it, to prove to your mates. They want initiatives that are pure, that are structured. If you do that, if you are genuine, your initiatives are structured, and you don't solicit for funds with an escapee mindset, definitely these guys are going to sponsor. And above all, the second speaker said something very powerful. Grow above your ecosystem to be able to effectively change your ecosystem, which means if you are a creative director, be so good that you're a national level creative director, then you can influence the community level creative director. You can't be on a community level creative director and want to influence the national. It doesn't go like that. So we have to just change our perspectives, change our narratives, create structures around what we want to do. And definitely there we'll have our best, we'll have the best. And above all, network with one another. Because right now, what we are experiencing on this platform is you coming together with your team to bring together the best around Africa. And then getting them now to give out knowledge, which is a great thing. So without the appropriate network, you can't get the results you want. Even with money, sometimes you can't move mountains. You will need some people who know who to call to chisel in between the mountains. So that's just it for me. That's my take on it. Maybe a lot of people say, yes, some governments are this, but my take on it is assume responsibility first. Needful within your own atmosphere. If they fail to do that, then that's on them, but you've done your best. That's on them, but you've done your best.
Thank you so much
Thank you very much.
for
I think
that.
that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you so much for that. All right, my last question, which goes to Mr. Tosin. So you actually mentioned that in order to break through the noise in a saturated digital space is for you to be unique in whatever you're doing online. So you don't have to look at what others are doing, or if you're looking at what others are doing, you're just trying to get more ideas, more innovation to improve on what you have, because only uniqueness can really help you to get to the highest level. Now, what advice do you have for African youths looking to turn their digital passion into purpose-driven business? So if they have that passion, if they have that idea, how can they transform that idea into a purpose-driven business with the help of the digital space?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for that question. I think I like the way you put it out there. First, I would say it's a combination of a lot of things at the same time. But first, I would say, like the initial point I gave, first identify what makes you different. All right. It's saturated. The space is already saturated, but it's not as saturated because of you are not in the system yet, and your presence in the system is what makes it new. It's what brings the new light to the old game. So identify what makes you you, and when you present yourself to the market, make sure that that niche is what makes you stand out. In fact, the way I say it here in Nigeria with my friends, I said I always say create a niche in your niche, right? Create a niche in your niche. So if everybody is selling meat pie, right? Yes, you are coming into a niche market where you are focused on meat pie. Find a way to add something different into your meat pie. So you might say you want to add plantain into your meat pie. You might say you want to add yam to your meat pie, or you want to add fish into your meat pie. It is called meat pie, but yours should now be a mixture of meat pie with plantain. Do you get? So find that thing that makes you that separates you from the crowd before you launch. That's number one. Number two is think sustainability. All right, think sustainability. One of the issues we've had generally with entrepreneurship is we have people that have come and they've not been able to stand in their businesses above 5 years. You see them come out with nice branding, good aesthetics, like they want to shut down the whole continent. But after 2, 3, 4 years, you realize the struggle for them, and they are not able to sustain many of the initiatives they are able to drive. And what inspires this most of the time, I think, is one of the major issues we are facing here in Africa, is we have entrepreneurs that are caught, they are starting out looking for grants. They just want grants. And because of there are a lot of funding opportunities, a lot that I know, a lot of funding opportunities for African entrepreneurs, they jump on these grants And when they collect the first $5,000, $10,000, they collect the first $20,000, they launch with a lot of noise. And at the end of the day, 3, 4, 5 years down the line, you can't find them. Why? Because of not thinking of sustainability. When the funding goes down to 70%, that's when it becomes a struggle to pay staff. They've employed staff beyond the structure of their organization. They are not able to get enough clients. Marketing becomes a struggle because you don't have enough funding. You have exhausted what you have and all of that. Then the last thing I would say, ending the question, is we need them as you start, as we think sustainability. We need entrepreneurs, particularly in the digital landscape, to start thinking long term. To start thinking long term. Think long term, very, very important. Okay, so as we started now, when I started my agency, right, we started doing design. We were just a design agency, helping organizations do design, develop design product and what have you. Then we realized that, okay, a lot of things are changing. Then Canva came into the picture. Canva came into the picture. Clients started realizing, oh, we don't entirely always need a graphic designer or a design agency to achieve certain things. So they started doing it themselves. At the point, it became a tussle for us. Clients started negotiating our products, our services down. It became an issue. And then we look at it, then we evolved into a digital agency, a social media agency, social media marketing agency. We evolved into that, right? As we evolved into that, it also became a problem when AI came. AI started, with AI now, a newbie can just come into the space, use AI to develop strategy, develop content pillars, develop content ideas, and even start deploying those content, structurally using these tools and platforms. All right, so it became a problem. So we needed to evolve into a digital consulting agency. Now we do strategy development for clients. So you can use AI to develop the content, but we are the ones that will tell you how best it will work, clear target audience, and how you need to build your strategy around to get the results you are looking for. So what has kept us in this space for over 5 years now is our ability to evolve, because we are constantly thinking long term, asking the question, what is changing and what is evolving in our space. So first, as you launch, find that thing that makes you unique, so you are not mixed up or you are not perplexed with the noise of the crowd in your space. Then secondly, think about sustainability. Oh, you've gotten the funding. How can we make this thing work, whether we get funding from donors or not? Then lastly, ensure that as you are as a company, you are thinking about next 10 years, you're thinking about next 20 years, all right? And how you need to, and how and when you need to evolve in your journey as you move. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks to both speakers for really taking us through this journey. I think it has been an incredible session. Please, if you have a question directed to any of the speakers, kindly drop the question in the chat or just simply raise your hand, and I'm going to unmute your mic so you can ask your question. So for tonight, we only have these two speakers, and we are so happy that they were able to make it for this session, and they have been able to share what they know and what they understand. And please make sure you connect with the speakers. You can check their LinkedIn handles in the chat. And of course, we are going to share their LinkedIn handle as well in the networking forum, so you can connect with them. Thank you very much, Mr. Tosin. Thank you very much, Mr. Lyonga. And again, the attendance sheet will be shared in the chat. So kindly make sure you fill the attendance before you leave this chat. We will not entertain anyone contacting us after this session asking for the attendance sheet. So please feel free, make sure you fill the form. Again, we'll be having the physical events should be coming up. The dates and the time will be shared in the various forums as well. I think we have 4 different forums. We are going to share all this information in the forum so that you know when this event will be happening in your country, so you can get yourself ready for the event. Thank you all very much, and I'm hoping to see you all tomorrow for our next topic. Bye-bye for now.